All right, guys, today we're going to be talking about the consumer and producer surplus. So to give you an idea what the consumer surplus is, think about that you are going to buy a cell phone, and let's say that you're going to pay $300 for it. That's the price that is advertised. However, you would have paid $600 if you wouldn't have found the sale. That surplus, that difference between the $600 and the $300 is an amount that you saved. You as a consumer had a surplus, had a saving. And now if you were to add all those difference in prices, it'll give you a quantity that's going to be called the consumer surplus. Let me go ahead and draw it so you can visualize it. So let's put the quantity here and let's put the price here. And let's do that as price increases. So in this direction, I'm drawing it kind of backwards, so I have to think about it for a second. But this is the visualization that will help us understand it a bit better. So let's say then that, so as the price increases, the quantity produced increases, this is going to be your supply curve. And as the price increases, the quantity sold decreases. This is going to be your demand curve. All right. So now you have your equilibrium point where you have here, and that's why I want to visualize it right here. The price that is going to give you the equilibrium, P naught, that one, oh, you can barely see it. Let me change color for that one. So let's say the price of equilibrium is right there, and let's say that your equilibrium quantity is right here. Let's go with Q naught and P naught. All right, so in the difference of price, so when you're going from 0 to P naught, this is going to be the prices. We're going to be considering this block from 0 to P naught. This is what we care about. Why? Well, let's take a look at this graph. So if you paid P naught, but you would have paid this other amount, this distance from P minus P naught would be giving you your surplus. All right, so that's going to be giving you your price surplus. But now what you need to do, you need to consider every one of these points here. So how do you do that? Well, that's going to be an area. So whenever you are looking for the consumer surplus, you're going to be looking at, let's call it consumer surplus. Let's say that's going to be your integral from 0 to Q naught, the equilibrium quantity, and then you're going to have the price of the demand curve in this case minus the equilibrium price dq. So you're going to have an integral there. Now that is going to be your consumer surplus. So the difference between how much you would have paid versus what you actually paid. Okay? Now, for the producer, for this given quantity, they would have been okay receiving this lower price, but they received this larger price. So you're going to be having that the producer surplus is also going to be the integral from 0 to Q naught, but it's going to be now the difference between the equilibrium price minus the price that they actually got paid. Now notice that I use P for both of them, but in this case, this is going to be, my P is going to be of the demand curve. And on this one, is going to be, for the producer surplus, is going to be given on the supply curve. So those are going to be the formulas that you will need to compute your consumer surplus and your producer surplus. All right, so basically what are you doing? You're looking at the difference of what people were willing to pay versus what they paid, starting at 0 all the way to your equilibrium quantity. And on the other hand, for your producer surplus, you're looking at what they wanted versus what they got. So that's the little surplus. So they got more than they would have taken for that quantity produced. So that is going to give you, when you integrate that from 0 all the way to Q naught, or the equilibrium point, that gives you actually the producer surplus. Now we're assuming that this commodity is priced at the equilibrium point, of course, but things can change. So if in a fair market environment, you would expect that that it would be priced at the equilibrium point. However, if there's a monopolistic kind of approach or market, the prices may be a bit higher, a bit steeper than it would actually be the equilibrium point, because they have that possibility. Also, when a commodity is more inelastic, then producers can actually charge more because people will buy it regardless. So, but the assumption that we're priced at the equilibrium point is a fair one, as long as the market is fair. All right, so let's go ahead and do a quick example for this one, and let's just do a couple lines just to see how it works. All right, so let's go ahead and write the supply and demand for this example. So the supply curve, let's say, is going to be the price as a function of the quantity. I'm going to give it in that order because that's how I drew it. So let's go ahead and say that this is going to be 3Q plus 4. Something very, very simple. We don't want to get too caught up in the numbers. It's just we want to understand the process first. So let's say we have a demand that is going to be something given by this. Let's say that at this point, let's say we're going to have a 10 minus 2Q. So just two lines, just straight up, not too complicated. We're going to find our equilibrium point by solving, setting them equal. That's the first thing you do in these problems. You find your equilibrium point. So you're going to say that you get 10 minus 2Q is equal to 3Q plus 4. And so if we solve here, we add 2Q on both sides, subtract 4, subtracting 4 on both sides, I get 10 minus 4, 6. And adding 2Q on both sides, 3Q plus 2Q, 5Q. And so the quantity, ugly quantity because I get 6/5. But let's assume that this is in thousands, so we get this times 1,000, so we clear the denominator. So let's assume the Q is given in thousands. Why not? We can because it's our example, right? Right. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to have to set up our integrals. However, notice that I need my equilibrium point. I just found the quantity, so I need to find the price for both of them. I would have to plug it in either one of these. It's going to be an ugly price. So let's see, 18/5 plus 4, if I plug my 6/5 into here. So I get 18/5 plus 4, which is going to be 20. 18 plus 20, 38/5. And I would have to get the same thing if I put it here, but just to verify, so I get 50 minus 12, 38 indeed. So 38/5. So that's going to be, those are going to be my Q naught and P naught. All right, so I can plug now everything into my integral. So the consumer surplus for this problem is going to be the integral from 0 to 6/5 of P. But in this case, remember, it's in the demand curve. 10 minus 2Q minus P naught. And so now it's a matter of integrating, so I have to subtract here. 10 is going to be 50 minus 38, 12/5 minus 2Q dQ. Now I go ahead and integrate, and this is going to just become 12/5 times Q. And this one is going to be minus Q squared And at this point, I have to evaluate from 0 to 6/5. This is going to be an ugly number, but it's okay. We'll deal with it. So 12/5, 15? I don't know where that one came from. Let me erase. So 12/5 times 6/5. Oh my goodness, my handwriting down there is getting terrible. Minus 6/5. Because I didn't really want to hunch down like this, but I think it's better. So this is going to be the easy way to do this. You grab the 6/5 common factor, and then you pull a 2 out of this one, so you get 6/5 squared common factor, and you get 2 minus 1. So this is just really going to be 6/5 squared when you compute it, or you put it in your calculator. So it's going to be 36/25. That is going to give you the consumer surplus. Now for the producer surplus, you would do the same thing, except now the integral would depend on the supply curve. I'm just going to set it up, not going to compute it, just because the procedure is the same. So integral from 0 to 6/5, and then you're going to have the P naught, 38/5, minus now P, but now you want the supply curve. Remember to use parentheses when you're subtracting. 3q plus 4, and then it's just a matter of operating and integrating the same way we did here, but I think I'll skip that part just because you already know how to do that. All right, so that's gonna wrap it up for this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.